Blessed be the name of the Lord. Hello, brothers and sisters. Should we obey tyrannical governments? Should Christians obey their rulers and authorities no matter what, at any cost? The Bible seems to say yes. Usually, what's quoted is Romans 13, where it says basically that every government is put in place by God, and if you resist the governments, then you resist God. But the key really is the verse 3, where it says, rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Another translation says, rulers are a threat to evil people, not to good people. So basically, if you're not doing anything wrong, you got nothing to worry about. And also the logic in the back of our heads is that things always get better with time. Our society surely is better organized now, more fair, we have more freedoms, more democracy, so if they obey the governments back then, why shouldn't we now, right? And back then they had Christian persecution. Christians were thrown to the lions, and they still obeyed their rulers and authorities, so how much more should we? But you know what? Most of the persecution didn't start until after the 2nd and 3rd century. There was some in AD 64 under Nero, but even that was after the book of Romans was written. The book of Romans was written in AD 60. First persecution AD 64, and most of it in 2nd and 3rd century, the years 200 and 300 AD. And are our governments really less tyrannical now than in ancient Rome? There is a story in the Bible that seems to contradict that idea that things always get better with time. There's a story in the book of Acts, Acts 22. Paul was detained by the Jerusalem PD. He was detained, arrested by the Roman soldiers, and they were about to abuse him physically a little bit. And he said, "Is it right for you to flog me when I am a Roman citizen?" And they all stepped back. They got scared, all of them. The police sergeant, the police captain, the centurion, the tribune, and all the other cops, the Roman soldiers, they stepped back and they got very concerned because Paul was a Roman citizen. See, they got hold of him, they tied him up, and they were about to flog him to get some information out of him. And he said, "Is it lawful for you to beat me up? I am a Roman citizen and I am uncondemned," he said, uncondemned. So basically, I am innocent until proven guilty. See, they had a rule of law and they had to follow it. And that was the thing in Rome, in ancient Rome. As a Roman citizen, you had rights. They could not just arrest you and physically abuse you. But look at some countries today, countries that claim to follow the rule of law. Australia, Holland, Austria, Germany, the list goes on and on. How are people being treated? The police throw them to the ground, they beat them up, run them over with horses, abuse them, put them in chokeholds. Women are attacked by burly cops. Women are attacked by big cops. So do we really have more freedoms, more democracy? Are things really better than 2,000 years ago? When Paul was arrested, even though he was an alleged lawbreaker, he had the right to be treated fairly, with dignity, and without abuse. But today, people are treated badly, physically abused, and beaten by the police with impunity. The police are not concerned. They don't back off. They are not concerned about anything. They are not afraid of being fired, like the Roman soldiers were. So are things really better for the average citizen today? I don't think so. The argument about Christians in the 1st century having it so tough and yet obeying the governments, so therefore we should obey the governments too, that argument I think is out the window. And talking about obeying somebody, the Bible talks a lot about obeying God. There's a very good verse in Deuteronomy, my favorite book. Deuteronomy 11, it says, "See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, and the curse if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God." And that is always constant. God never changes, and He is fair, always. He does not oppress people. So should we obey tyrannical governments? Well, that is for every man to decide for himself. But one thing seems for certain, that the authorities in the ancient Rome were more fair to their citizens, more lawful, and more just than our governments are today to us. It is clear that we have entered a new level of evil, where authorities are lawless and punish its citizens for doing good. Maybe they should read the book of Romans, where it says, because this is in direct contradiction to the book of Romans, that the governments are not supposed to punish its citizens for doing good, for let's say, protesting peacefully. So when you quote the verses about obeying the rulers and authorities and the governments, remember that at the time when those verses were written in ancient Rome, the governments, the rulers, they still had a sense of decency to follow the rule of law and justice for all its citizens. And it only makes sense, I believe it only makes sense to obey the rulers who themselves obey the law.